Hello, everyone. Welcome to this wonderful panel. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you guys are joining in. We have a fantastic panel today. First of all, just want to straight away kickstart with the introduction because this is sort of a dream panel here right in front of our eyes, and I wouldn't be more excited to sort of tune in. Say a big hi to all the way to Victoria Needs joining from UK. She's the VP International Marketing at AWAL. Thank you for joining in, Victoria. We have Tarsame. Thank you. We have Tarsame, sort of doesn't need any introduction here. We sort of are very used to seeing him in front of the screen or at conferences. Tarsame Mittal is the founder of TM Talent Management. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Roochay. Pleasure to be here.
We have Mehta, who is again a very, very renowned face. Sort of started a small baby last year with Warner Music India. He's the MD of the company, and in the 1 year we already know how many things Warner is in the news for, and all for the good reasons. So thank you for joining in, Jay. Great to see you.
Thanks, Roochay. Pleasure to be here.
And we have everybody's favorite AKASA. That's how we love to say it. She's a singer-songwriter who's just freshly released a hit song, Shukla, which everybody should check it out right away. How are you, AKASA? Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on this panel. I can't wait to start and learn so many things.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, hi, this is Roochay Shukla here. I'll be the moderator for the JioSaavn for Creative Business panel. I had the marketing and promotions at Outdustry. We are a unique market-leading music services company. And we do a whole bunch of stuff in A&R, marketing and rights management, going behind the emerging markets of China and India. So let's begin. So here we are, which is the JioSaavn for Creators panel. A quick intro on what the amazing stuff that's happening around this particular JioSaavn for Creators initiative is that creators have been at the center of the JioSaavn brand from its early years. From in-house programs for artist management to national brand campaigns, with artists in focus to creator-focused products. And JioSaavn's endeavor has always been to create an ecosystem that works as a stimulus to the creator economy. JioSaavn for Creators is just another step in that direction. It was launched in December last year with the aim of supporting creators through resources, creator products, and panels that can empower their careers. As a continuation to their panel series, here we are, which is from a business perspective, we'll be discussing some trends of 2021. So let's dive into it. Before we get into the first question, some interesting insights which we found out from JioSaavn, and they were kind enough to share with us with the help of their dashboards and platform insights, is that how the last year has been. We all know it's been a strange time for all of us, but some interesting things that happened in the music space. I'm a big fan of this one line which says, whenever anything happens wrong in the world or in anyone's life, people turn to art. And I think that is very much translated in this pandemic time as well. So looking back last year, 2020, there were at least an average of 8 non-film songs that were in the top 30 playlists, which literally takes up 30% of the playlist chunk. Even in the non-film and indie song space, this particular number of streams have grew from 7% in 2015 to 14% in 2018 to 25% in 2020, which is a phenomenal jump taken up by this particular sector. The number of songs and the indie artists have doubled in the last 1 year. Regional languages like Punjabi, Telugu, and Tamil have seen 2x rise in the number of streams. Something in terms of the behavior and the highlights, how music has translated. The majority of the activities where music is consumed is household chores, workout, meals and cooking, social distancing, and work from home playlists, which have literally gone 2x time. there are certain mood-based playlists like chill, unwind, relax, focus that are trending in the moment. And you will see very interestingly, yoga playlists have gone like 70% increase in terms of the streams, which kind of states how people are going back to much more familiar and calming sort of music. So that is where a big chunk of streams are coming in. Just an open-ended question to you guys. Do you have any insights from last year from your list of releases or anything? And maybe Victoria, we can go with you first.
So much has happened. I think, I work in an international department, and I think for us, the lack of international touring or be able to move our artists around the world for promotion has made a huge impact to the way that we build our artists. And I think we've really seen over the last year the need to kind of have a much deeper lean into localized content, deeper fan engagement strategies, and a lot has changed. I think, in the world where lots of people have lost their touring income, it's been great for me to be at AWAL and be part of a place where artists own their masters and can look to their streaming income to kind of counterbalance that. But there's a massive concern about what's going to happen as this touring industry kind of comes back again. And I think, clubs and gigs and festivals are such a huge part of our culture. It's important to see them survive. So, it's terrifying, but then at the same time, there's a whole bunch of exciting things, live streaming and Zoom meet and greets and flexible working and NFTs and all the other kind of trends that are kind of being brought forward over the last year. And it'll be interesting to see how they develop over the coming year or so.
It's quite the right direction to head. Absolutely. Tarsame, any thoughts?
I can just add a few things that in India specifically, because film music could not release as much as it does in general time. So obviously non-film regional and, I started my own label, and there are hundreds of music labels who started. A lot of artists have started their own labels. How much of it is successful, non-successful, I don't know. That's a separate story altogether. So I'm really happy with the way, the non-film and the scene is growing. But we'll have to check what happens when things become normal and film music also come in the same capacity or same stature as it used to come before COVID. And we are also a company which is primarily focused on live shows. I mean, that's where 80% of our revenue comes from. So it has taken a real toll. We've changed a lot. We've started focusing on other businesses like all for all our artists. Today, the majority of our revenue does not come from live. I mean, not at all. So we have started focusing on digital, a lot of social media activities, a lot of OTT content and other things around. So those are the major changes for us in the last 1 year.
Amazing. Congratulations once again on starting that label. I think that was a long time pending and everybody's been quite excited about it. Jai, any key insights from last year?
There are a couple of things which have happened specifically in the last 1 year. Number one, and this is especially for a country like India, the focus on audio. In India, we call a country which watches more music than listens to music. We are so obsessed about consuming music via video. That has been a decent amount of change, and this forced largely because of the pandemic, wherein we could not release or shoot enough videos. And there was a genuine sense of focus on audio leading the way of consuming music. Now, that has been a significant change in the last 1 year. If you would have seen a lot of big non-film hits or even international hits, they've come on the back of just either a lyric video or absolutely no video at all on the back of just releasing an audio. Recently we released a Lipa remix with AWAL. It doesn't have a video, it's part of the charts. So that entire focus that's largely pushed by the pandemic, but it's a very interesting way the industry is moving, because largely music should be consumed for the goodness of the audio, and that's a big change which has happened in the last 1 year especially. The second interesting thing which has happened is people's acceptance of live digital. We always know that on ground or a digital concert or a live concert experience can never be replaced by a live. But what has happened is people know that it's not possible to go and attend concerts. I think a lot more things are going to happen with NFTs, with the way gaming is going to be involved in music. We have seen the emergence of short video platforms. wherein the time consumption has gone up significantly. Everybody talks about Netflix, about Amazon Prime, Hotstar, and the kind of long form time spent. But at the same time, the time spent and the number of short video platforms the last 1 year that has come up has really overtaken, if you look at the overall time spent compared to the long form formats. So yes, there are a lot of emergence of new technologies, new form of consuming music, and I feel that even though things will become normal soon, and that's what I'm really hoping. But what changes have happened in the last 1 year, they will really shape the way of how music is going to be consumed at least for the next 5 years.
Amazing. I mean, you're giving like a whole bunch of positive vibes to the entire pandemic that's happening. I think there's so much great things to look forward to. Thank you for the insights here. Akasa, any sort of great stories you want to share from last year, or any key insights from the year gone by?
I think, one of the major things that I saw, not only as an artist, but as someone suddenly sitting at home, is the type of music I listen to, not only me, a lot of like, maybe let's say my group listened to, suddenly flipped. Like I would not be listening to a slow playlist that often because I'd consume dance music, or only when I sometimes went for a drive. I feel like that changed so much. I released a song as in I was a part of this song called Dhoonti Fira with the Yellow Diary, which came right like in the beginning of the lockdown that India went through. I think that song was consumed so much more because everyone was sitting at home. There was a sense of, unfortunately, only in the first few months of sitting at home, there was a sense of peace and everything. I think the consumption changed a lot for a lot of users and audiences of streaming platforms. People started listening to a lot more slow songs. Also, a lot of artists suddenly changed. See, if let's just say I am XYZ and I'm known for my fast numbers in films, right? I'm a film song singer, and I always have. But what happened in the pandemic was that there were no films, so there were no fast songs, so there were no like Bollywood ding chang. What I was either compelled to do or inspired to do was create an indie song that I have never done before. But because the times are such, or I'm sitting at home, I have a studio set up, and I'm just sitting with maybe an instrument or something. So many artists came up with, big artists, small artists, new, old, came up with like singles that was so different from what they did before. And I think that is because of that, because they were sitting at home, they got to discover so many new things about themselves, like including me. I didn't think I could sit in my bedroom under this blanket and record a single which was supposed to be really big, but I did that.
Absolutely, so true. And I'm glad like artists are now much more experimental about the styles of music, and they're diving into different genres, which I think is a great segue now to our next segment. And like Tarsame, I would like to open this question to you. I think because you shared on your Facebook recently about one of the stats from Bawan Gaj Ka Daman, which has raked in like that particular video is like raked in 834 million plus views.
So 850 while we speak.
But yeah, the interesting part is a Haryanvi song doing so many numbers. So, and 5 years back, we wouldn't have even thought about where the other languages are going. How are these genres and music consumption in the past 1 year? How has this changed, and what is the impact here, Tarsame?
I think it's purely a democratization of, I'm sorry if I'm not getting the word right, of music. I mean, earlier, entry into music was difficult. You have to tie up with a big label. The big label has to invest a lot of money, stuff like that. And the Aam Janta, the general audience, do not really understand genre. I am 100% sure the majority of people who consume music do not understand genre. People listen to music like the way we listen to music. They either like it or they don't like it. When I say Haryanvi music again, in Haryana, there are a lot of music labels who've been doing it for a long time, and they have been successful. There are other artists who have been doing really well. This song primarily had the luck and primarily had the right moment and the right tune, and it got connected with the right people in the right time, and that's why it is what it is. The regional music is definitely going ahead. There are a lot of reasons of that, and Jay will be able to answer that in much detailed perspective, because the access of internet has come to Indian tier 2, tier 3 cities 3-4 years back. Internet has become cheap only 3-4 years back. Earlier, people did not have the access, so only very limited number of people were enjoying this kind of music. So today, people in Haryana did not see so many releases happening. They did not really have to have a. I'm a Haryanvi myself, if you know. So I mean, we didn't know that there is music in Haryana. There can be so much music coming out of here. So there is a lot of music coming out from Haryana now, and like any other industry, and uh, those simple tunes, those simple lyrics, and something which can connect with you, that just blows, and it's growing at a very high speed. So Haryanvi, in short, in one line, if I have to, Haryanvi is the new Punjabi.
Jay, I'm sure like regional has been your thing since so many years now, and there's some interesting stories out there. What's happening on this front?
I think one statement, if I have to make, which really truly defines the transformation, is regional is no longer regional. And that's a big transformation which has happened. At some point in time, we were calling that regional music because the impact consumption of that music used to be in that particular state. In India, we know that films are released in 13 languages, music is consumed in 27 plus languages. Now, every single music has the potential to be consumed nationally. The artists or even the current charts, top 10 charts in India, more than 50% artists have never sung a mainstream film song. If you look at the overall charts right now, and if I just look at number of streams, Vati Coming. Now, that's a Tamil track, which has now obviously become an anthem. You will see, be it cricket, be it sports, be it everything else, Vati Coming has truly become the anthem for these artists. Bavan Gach Ka Daman, that's an Haryanvi track. Vati Coming is Tamil. Botamma, which is a Telugu track. Now, these kind of tracks have started doing as many streams as some point in time the highest Bollywood track used to do. And that is not by coincidence. A lot has happened over the last 2 years, especially because of two main differentiation. The 4G penetration in India, which was 200 million in 2017. Right now, we have 650 million consumers having access to 4G. We have 450 million plus actively using 4G. Now, when that happens, the second biggest impact which has happened is the explosion of short video formats. And at some point in time, wherein we had only one YouTube and say 3 or 4 DSPs for audio, today we have close to 25 different short video formats, which start the life from tier 4, tier 3, tier 2. The third most important thing which has happened, if you look at the emergence of followers, a lot of time people say that is not the true indicator of how big or small a person is, which I agree. But if you look at the following, which has translated in the last 2 years, one of the biggest artists right now on Instagram is, apart from obviously Bollywood stars, is a guy called Riaz, who comes from a TikTok and an Instagram background. We have seen so many influencers which have come from creating video on short format have suddenly have the following of a star.
And yeah, very rightly said. And I think that's what's been translated as well with the numbers of people like consuming music via the short form video platform. AKASA, how has this trend sort of impacted your sort of rise of non-film releases? I mean, have these trends played a role here, or do you have a vision here of focusing more on such releases?
I realized in the lockdown very late that Punjabi music or Punjabi films or Punjabi artists is not just regional. It's much, much bigger than, like, it's literally shoulder to shoulder with Bollywood music. I think Jez basically just said everything, and it's so correct. It's not about ye regional hai ya ye hai. If your content is good, you're a star. Currently, whether a lot of artists are very, very against this whole I don't want a TikToker in my video or whatever. It's a fact. I'm sorry, but it's a fact. I'm not saying I'm that artist, but a lot of artists have that thing ki nahi yaar, our art should sell. Why are we getting someone who just has followers? But the fact of the matter is that in my house, everyone from my BG to my house help to my driver to probably my dad also, and my mom, maybe not my brother, are consuming that guy Riaz, like his content, and maybe not even Jackie Shroff. Tiger Shroff. So trends are it's today that Haryanvi guy might not have any Bollywood song, but 835 million views is more than so many Bollywood hits. I think whether you like it or not, the talk of the season or whatever is what is trending. And let me give you an example. When I post a reel on Instagram, it's a short form, now that we don't have TikTok here. If I post a reel of me singing, I'm not very, very active. I'm not an influencer status yet, but I have like a decent amount of followers who've been there since a while. But even with those followers, the moment I post a reel with me singing any song, just because I'm a singer, that's what I will post. Compared to even if I do any nonsense, which is make funny faces on a trending song, the consumption of that little silly thing is so much more than me singing that I, at the end of the day, have to sit and be like, yes, trends and it matters. So now it's become, it's not even like we are dependent on them, they are dependent on us. There's no more, ye star hai because ye Bollywood hai, ye thoda regional hai, so it's all become like, aap hit ho, to aap hit ho. Or trending ho, to trending ho. Doesn't matter who you are, from where you are.
Your account is one of the most fun accounts to follow, so people should follow it. We love all the things that you do. Victoria, I think one thing that's really common in most of these releases that they come from an independent space, and we've seen that rise of independent sectors as one of the most fastest growing sectors in the world. And you at AWAL are like one of the most pioneers, leading this torch. How has this sort of translated globally?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think actually so much of what you just said was really fascinating. But I think the one thing that's really sticking out to me right now is when you talk about the democratization of music and of social media and of gatekeepers and the kind of move from regional to kind of more national, is how exciting it is right now that you can kind of be anywhere in the world and you can deliver a global hit. Like anyone in the world can have a massive hit, and you only have to look. Two of their biggest 3 artists in the world were from Latin America. Now that region of the world has developed at different paces with broadband penetration and the music coming through, but you can just see how this is going to change. And what you guys are doing with YouTube, I still feel like India's power over YouTube is just phenomenal.
Fantastic. Thank you for those insights. Moving on, I think one of the most leading spaces to talk about is live streaming. Particularly, I just came across something very important this morning was from a Canadian musician called Dan Mangan, who said that he would rather play an online version of a dimly lit club that is focused and attentive, where everyone's paid to be there. They've made time in their lives to be there, rather than trying to bust for thousands of millions of people who don't really care. And I think that over the course of 1 year, we've seen how the live streaming has become like the next big thing for the artists to focus. Someday we obviously focus, saying that our hopes are like that we'll get back to our normal. But until then, I mean, AKASA, just like we want to start off with you first. How has the live streaming turned out for you? And how is your focus staying on it?
My experience with live streaming I don't know how much India has really figured that out yet for its artists, because until now, whatever I've seen is it's not very artist friendly. I may be having very strong views here, and maybe I'm someone. I know there are a few artists who've sort of figured it out, who figured out their sound, their budgets, their sort of whole, the whole gig and everything. It becomes very limiting, not only because I'm in front of a screen and performing for someone who's on the other side of the screen, but also the kind of audiences that would come, let's say to Tarsim, let's talk about BMP, okay? That audience, BMP is like this concert where majority is youth, but there's like all ages. Those people behind a screen will not consume that gig, like will not consume that content the same way. So this live streaming or live gigs, especially for the kind of gigs I do majorly, which is full on interactive and dance and everything, is not, we've not reached, or I personally have not reached that level of even saying ki, okay, it's fine for now. For me, it's like the few that I've done, I've just been like, okay, we have to do this. And I pretend like I'm shooting instead of pretending there's a live audience in this, because it's not, obviously it's not the same, that's an understatement, but it's not artist friendly yet. And I hope we figure it out soon, because God knows we've not figured out the pandemic yet. So I think we can do so much better there. And for the people who have figured it out, that's great, but I'm not very strongly about this. Moving on to someone else who does fashion.
Maybe not yet, AKASA, but you're phenomenal live, and yeah, as in when you'll come, you'll do fab. But I think what's happening we've seen that with a lot of platforms taking initiative. I think even with JioSaavn, when they started off live anywhere last year, and the last 1 year they've had literally more than 25 acts now. Artists like Amal Malik, B Prak, and the latest one being A.R. Rahman. I think it's created an alternative revenue stream for the artist, and also really had a big incentive for users to go into a much more premium sort of a model. Tarsame has that big a big incentive for you as a growth of live streaming for your artist.
So honestly, I'm not a big fan of live streaming. Okay, and let me put it very straight, because it's an option. It cannot be a replacement. Because today, whatever this Zoom call which we are doing, the panel, if we had the option of doing it in a physical environment, would we still do it on Zoom? That's the question we need to ask. There is a research which says that top of the festivals in the world, if you ask somebody who attended the festival 1 year later, they don't remember more than 2 or 3 artist names. Okay, which is strange, but which is true, because people remember the experience. People remember they picked up a couple of friends on the way. Can that happen on live stream? It can't happen. Also, commercially, it is not even 1% of revenue. The revenue which we do on live business, we haven't been able to do 1% of that in last 1 year, or in 1% is maybe 2-3% or something like that, less than 5% for sure. Now, how do artists survive? And especially in a country like India, where the majority of revenues for majority of musicians, 80% of them at least is live, so the revenues are at toss. So that's my honest submission. It's all great. I mean, I truly appreciate everybody who's putting in an effort. There might be some concert which people really love, but if they are supported by AR, if we are able to create a unique experience which you don't get on a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, so it's a cultural thing. So that's what it is for me.
Thanks, Tarsame. And I think hope is alive. One day we'll be one of the highest payers someday for music, and people will realize that. But thank you for the insights. And I think just because we're talking about live streaming, and AKASA, going back to you again, your brand new song that's really come out. Congratulations for Shola. It's been great listening to it. And because, as you've mentioned, you've not been so active on the live stream, this is a request if you could sing in some lines of it.
For sure, 100%. I wish I could also dance some. I'm gonna try doing that a bit. Song is called Shola. It's getting a lot of love. Touchwood. I've just started writing and composing. So this one's also co-written and composed by me. So here you go. हरकत ये गुलाबाब है आंखों में तेरे ख्वाब हर ताने का जवाब है टोरा है बेहिसाब हूँ मैं नच्चा 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 रज रज के कुड़ी तू शोला 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 लगे बड़ ठाड़ के शोला 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 लगे बड़ ठाड़ के. This song is an example of why we need to sing live and not over Zoom calls.
Wow. That was amazing, AKASA, and we really can't wait to actually get that glimpse of that song live with your stellar performance. Let's talk about the stars of 2021. It's again an open-ended question. I think one of the key insights from TikTok in the rest in other parts of the world, because unfortunately we don't have it here. From 2020, they signed, 70 top creators were like offered major labels recording deals. And I think that self speaks volume, out of which 90 songs made it to the top 100 Billboard charts, out of which 15 reached like #1. These are like the stars that are being getting all the love on the social media. Cut to, if we look at how India is doing, Jay gave us a couple of examples on what people are consuming and how music is being consumed on those platforms. Reels and Triller, obviously they're coming in a big way. There are big influencers who are now turning musicians. So we have examples like Tanzil collaborating with Arjun and so on. And I think this is where, if you look at the trend that's going into 2021, so who are these superstars of 2021? I mean, whom are we looking at as the definition of superstar? AKASA, would you want to start here? Anything?
Honestly, I'm very, very happy to hear about a lot of artists getting signed to big record labels. I think whatever said and done, TikTok was very, very, very influential and instrumental in a lot of hits in India as well. Unfortunately, compared to overseas, there people are getting signed because when an English song on TikTok gets hit, it's taken more seriously. But unfortunately, when a Hindi song on TikTok gets hit, I'm saying TikTok, I know it's now not there, but I'm talking about like last year, because I had a very big hit, which TikTok was was one of the big reasons. It's just not taken seriously because of whatever stigma around that platform that was in India. But at the end of the day, today, those same people are, like you mentioned, Tanzil. He was always into music and writing. But because TikTok gave him such a huge following, then on Instagram, he got not only the means and not only the voice, but also that, I'm guessing, that confidence to be like, yeah, I'm going to go to Arjun and tell him I have a song and do you want to do it with me? And Arjun will be very happy to do it, not because, even though Tanzila is a newcomer, he comes with so much of a following. I think it's about the new stars are the ones that took that content creation, short form content creation seriously back then when it was not a trend.
That's a really strong way to look at like how these stars are like coming up, and interesting insights there. Victoria, let's pass on this question to you. What AKASA mentioned, it's been looking into it, how it's looking into from an Indian point of view. But how are you guys catering to such superstars on a global level and from an AWAL point of view?
It's really interesting because I think there's an increasingly a feeling that, true kind of global hits are harder and harder to come by. And those that do come are often coming out of TikTok. Now, I think what you have to think about is often, for me, sometimes there's an almost kind of like American Idol, X Factor-esque attachment to these kind of big moments. And if you're being signed for one of these kind of big hit moments, sure, chase the cash, chase the moment, see what you can build from there. But actually, I think what's really interesting is the other type of signings that are coming through TikTok is, the people who are, songwriters or may want to build a career longer term. And I think, the sexy Old Town Road stuff, that's the stuff that makes the headlines. But there's also a whole suite of other artists who are building kind of longer term careers. I think the question I always think on this is, is it easier to teach a musician to be a creator of content, or is it easier to teach a creator of content to be a musician? And I think there is kind of, it depends, and there's a middle ground there. And I think there's a huge amount of opportunity. We've certainly got a kind of whole range. We've recently signed a couple of artists who we think have huge long-term potential. And then we have other artists who were kind of musicians and really run with the gauntlet and figured out how to play the platform and build themselves huge audiences. But certainly it feels the place to be if you want to be, building global hits right now.
That's really something to look forward to, 100%. And we are looking at how these short form video platforms are really engaging with the audience. Even partners like, you look at platforms like JioSaavn, they've started partnering with short form video platforms like Triller. So if you look at from an in-app perspective, the integration itself shows top Triller videos where users can consume music and also be encouraged to make UGC videos. So I think that's a nice way of really bridging the gap between the creator and the music. Any other thoughts that you would want to add, TM or Jay?
We've seen so many different artists come up on the scene, but there's only one Arijit. And the fact is he's a star not only because he has hits, but the fact is that he has never been complacent. You look at his last 3 years journey, he consistently does something new. From film to even his venture into a non-film track to now being a composer. And then that's the tougher journey. It's not about the first claim to fame, but what you do after you be number one is probably the more tougher part. And then that's where very few artists stay. A lot of artists will get one big global hit, will have suddenly a huge amount of claim to fame. But for being a star, for being somebody who has really going to succeed over a long period of time, is what it does after getting a hit. What it does after becoming famous. This pandemic eventually also will test a lot of different celebrities across the world, right from creating music to what to do on short video format. And Victor said a very nice thing about, the amalgamation of musician becoming content creators and content creators becoming music artists. And then that creates a lot of competition on both sides of the platform. And a true star, or for me, what's a star? A star is anybody who a consumer or a viewer aspires to be. And then that's going to be getting even more competitive, but at the same time, even more open playing field going forward. And then I feel the true people who really evolve and adjust with the changing times are going to be staying longer.
Amazing. Tarsame?
There is no rule or regulation which fits all. 20, 30 years back, as I said, there were entry barriers, and there were some people who were kind of representative of the whole decision making of what people will consume. Today, that decision making is in the hands of people. It is again coming back to the same word, democratization of the content. So whether you are an influencer, eventually all big labels have to run their business. It's an economy. It's an economy of scale, or it's a business decision. So who would you invest your money on? Somebody who has a lot of following and more probability of succeeding, or somebody who has less following and less probability of succeeding?
So Victoria, let's start with you first, because I think this is an interesting global phenomena that's happening, which is a cultural amalgamation between the entertainment industry and the music industry, and they're sort of blending it together. This crossover of music gaming becoming one of the most interesting industry trends to look out for. Are there any interesting insights that you guys are working on at AWAL on this, particularly?
I think it's really interesting because you have, the obvious kind of big stuff with the Fortnite activations with Travis Scott or Marshmello, or how many tracks you can get on a FIFA soundtrack, and all of these things are incredible and can make a significant difference to the way a campaign runs. But I think what's actually really interesting here for me, and this applies to an artist at any stage of their career, is these niche communities that are growing within gaming. So Roblox, for example, that kind of space to build community in there, or, even Animal Crossing. I'm a bit of an Animal Crossing fan myself. Like one of our artists did a KK Slider remix of one of their songs. They were doing tours of their island on YouTube. None of these things are necessarily things the mainstream press are ever going to talk about, but they make that human to human connection on Twitch or on YouTube. And I think if there's an artist, if you're out there and you're an artist and you have a genuine connection to a game on a personal level, that gives you a real opportunity to dive into a kind of niche community, be part of that, and use that as part of your campaign. And I think that can be for superstar artists to brand new artists. And there are huge, huge, huge communities of people in gaming, and they're there to be a part of. So I would, find out what's natural to you in your campaign and then build that into your release strategy.
Jay, do we have any sort of interesting thoughts here?
2 years back, there was a big integration of Alan Walker's character into PUBG. At that point in time, when PUBG had 100 million plus users in India, and that really got him an extended, expanded audience. Wherein a lot of artists did have significant access to streaming followers. Here is one artist who came with the background of that big integration on PUBG, and then suddenly everything that Alan Walker put out went straight into charts. So yes, it is important to build communities in the gaming world, but also be very careful in terms of what is the right intersection of what music will work there.
Well, very rightly said. I think that big chunk of pie is really lying for the music fans to be eaten up in the gaming world, but at the same time, it'll have to be played around very sensitively, because there are hardcore fans into the gaming space. Moving on to the current buzzword, which is NFTs, or we call it the non-fungible tokens, which are primarily intangible. It's like the tokens linked to tangible or intangible value, which is photograph, drawing, video, song, or experience, such as collaborating with an artist or VIP tickets. You've seen in the last 6 months, not just tons of creators making millions, but also A-listers like The Weeknd, Calvin Harris, Grimes, diving into this space. These are still early days, but the experts say that it's $1 billion market lying out for the artists. My question, let's start with you, Victoria. What are your thoughts on this becoming an alternative revenue stream for the artists?
So I enjoyed a bit of the CryptoKitties boom in 2016, 2017. And I think the thing that I learned most out of that period was, understanding what Ethereum was and learning a little bit about decentralization. I still have a whole load to learn, but it's fascinating. I think CryptoKitties were probably one of the first MFTs, and certainly the first kind of gamified version of NFTs. And I think what you have to be really careful about right now is who are buying these NFTs. And I think that a lot of people made a lot of money from Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last 5 years. And I think they're hedging their bets potentially into what they see as the next big thing. Now, I think if you've got a niche audience that connects with this space, or you have a very large audience, or you're a talented artist or creator, then sure, explore the area, make a bunch of money. I think if you actually go and take yourself as an artist on the consumer journey of what it actually takes to get some Ethereum and pay for something, it's not a very nice consumer journey at this point. Now, that doesn't mean that won't change. But I think it's not, certainly for me, it's not everybody should do this as a marketing campaign tick list. I think it's going to grow and it's going to change over the coming years. But I think the biggest learning for everybody right now is this is a reminder of what a decentralized web could look like. What Web 3.0 could look like in the future, the impact that could have on music with rights management, decentralized streaming services or social media platforms. It's a lot to start thinking about. It's a lot to digest, but be there, learn about it, be part of what may be coming, because I think it actually feeds perfectly back into that word that we've been using all day today, and that's democratization. So I think, what could come, I think NFTs are a reminder for me of what could come, not necessarily what every artist needs to be doing now.
Absolutely right. Thank you for sharing, Jay. Any feedback?
I think there's not many people in the world have been able to figure out. The fact is that there is going to be an industry in the future, but how do we make ourselves ready for that? Right now, we don't have a secret formula or the right method to do it. The very fact is that even since it is extremely early days, it's already a $55 billion industry. Augurs really well in terms of if somebody has to focus right now and taking a uh, 3-year plan to reach what we want to reach in this world. I think it's a good time to start now.
That sounds super interesting. Thank you, Jay. So that's about it, guys. Just before we end, it'd be great to sort of have any closing remarks or comments from each one of us.
I think this was super interesting conversation because we had people from all the 4 different worlds of the entire music industry, literally the 4 pillars being artists, the management, AWAL, and then a label. Now, it's the last 1.5 years, everybody has gone through stress, be it artists, largely from the monetization perspective, but also surely from the fact that when the industry was growing at all-time high, the pandemic has happened right in the middle of that growth. And a lot of people have adjusted in their manner of how do you treat this pandemic. But the fact is that it definitely has pushed people to identify a different way of creating music. The artists have found a way to discover their inner self, something which they've not been able to do because of not having time.
Exciting times, yes. Who's ready next?
I'll go. I was just thinking, actually, there were so many interesting things. I've learned a lot today listening to everybody else. And, we can talk about decentralization, or we can talk about fan relationships or content, or, all the different things that this pandemic has thrown up. But ultimately, right now, the most exciting thing about, the coming year is that we're all going to be able to be back together. We're all going to be able to stand in crowds, sing songs together, feel that feeling, and watch what we all love is artists are back on stage. So, I think we've got a lot to look forward to.
Whatever you said, make everything true ASAP. That's the goal right now.
So
thank you, Victoria. Tarsame?
So I'm saying one simple thing. We all know the problems, all of us, and I am sure that the change is the only constant thing in the world. I think till the time there is a creator which has the potential of convincing a consumer to follow them, or listen to their music or love what they do, our business will exist. Our business will never go down. The mode might change, the format might change, but you will have some or the other kind of business. And the most important thing I say, when there is stress, there is more need of entertainment. So which means music is an integral part of our culture, our living, how we feel, how we do. So we have a lot of opportunities and things which we can do. We should focus on that, and let's hope that things come back normal, better than what it were always.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. And to Tarsame's word, all of us are in this together, and I think the only way to look forward is onwards and upwards, and it's just going to get better from here on. Thank you so much, Team JioSaavn, for this fantastic JioSaavn for Creators Business panel, and to the wonderful panelists again, Victoria, Jay, Tarsame, AKASA. This panel has been like nothing less than like a really big encyclopedia happening in front of our eyes. So much to take back home with. Thank you for all your insights, guys, and
thank you,
Roochay. See you guys around.
Thank you, Roochay. Thanks for making this really a store for us.